so basically, I'll be talking to you today about dopamine. Let's start off by defining what dopamine is. Okay? So, dopamine is a neuromodulator. It's a chemical in our brain that goes over and looks so that all the neurons in our body can communicate correctly. Now, for this talk, I would like you to create a mental model in your head of dopamine. It's a currency for happiness, for drive, for striving for external factors. Okay. Now that we know a bit about dopamine, let's think about how it works. Okay. So dopamine, you can imagine yourself a wave graph, right? And dopamine goes up and down, but the point is that it has a stable level, and that stable level is called the tonic level. Okay. Now the tonic level is distinct genetically for every separate person. But when we perform activities that increase our dopamine, we have spikes and then we go down. That's called the phasic level. Okay. Now that we know a bit about how dopamine works, let's think about what external factors can influence it. Okay. A very popular thing to increase dopamine is ingestion of different types of foods. Chocolate is a very known example, and it increases, for perspective, dopamine up to 1.5 times above baseline. Nicotine increases dopamine 2.5 times above baseline, and amphetamine drug increases it all the way 10 times up. Okay? Now, apart from like hard drugs, let's think about more family-friendly things that could increase your dopamine. One of them would be exercise, and exercise could increase it 2.5 times, but this is very subjective as it depends on what exercise people like to perform. A good way to increase dopamine as well, which is not that known and it's not that popular, and maybe that I could today make you think about maybe including it into your daily routine, is cold exposure. Now, cold exposure for up to 30 seconds can increase your dopamine threefold for up to 5 hours. You can think about it as smoking a cigarette all the way for 5 hours, as it has much the same effect. This can be used for productivity or just for generally increasing levels of dopamine. Okay, now that I gave you a bit kind of perspective about what different things can increase your dopamine, let's think maybe how dopamine relates to motivation. Okay, so there's this pattern that dopamine follows in our bodies that relates to our most primal instincts. And it works like this. When you first think, I'll go off on the example of food, okay? When you're first hungry, and you think about a sandwich you want to eat, right? And you really like that sandwich, it really looks amazing in your head. You think about it, and that increases your dopamine, because that's a positive feeling, right? So it increases your dopamine, but then eventually you didn't have the sandwich, so it goes back down. The dopamine falls below the baseline, which leads you to wanting to pursue, to get that sandwich, and this pattern is the inherent cause of our most primal motivations and drives. Okay, good. Now, let's think maybe, what I wanted to still say is that a thing that is very popular among people, especially who go to the gym, is that when they go to the gym, and they, for instance, they really like going to the gym, right? It makes them happy, increases their dopamine. But what they do is that they stack different activities on top of that, which means they go to the gym and then they take, for instance, they listen to some music, they take some pre-workout, they go for a cheat meal afterwards, right? And this stacking on top of each other of different feelings, of different activities that increase your dopamine can lead to you not wanting to pursue the first thing. Now this sounds very abstract, and I'll back it up with an example. Okay? There was a study performed at Stanford, and basically what they did was that they took kindergartners who liked to draw. Okay? They really enjoyed drawing. It was just something that they liked doing. And when they drew, the kindergarten teachers one day started to give them a golden star. Now, this gave them an external motivation to pursue drawing, right? Eventually, the teachers stopped giving the kids the golden star, which led to them not enjoying drawing anymore. So, when you stack on top of each other different activities that you like performing, can lead, when they are withdrawn, can lead to you not wanting to pursue the first thing at all. Okay. Now, dopamine is really known also in regards to addiction. Okay? Now, dopamine is kind of stays as the backbone of addiction as well, and I'll be going over addiction and defining it as Andrew Huberman does, a Stanford professor. And his definition of addiction is the steady narrowing of things that make us happy. Okay? Now, I'll be going again off of an example, and here I'll go maybe off the example of cocaine, which is not that family friendly, but I think you'll understand it. So basically, what you do is that you ingest cocaine, right? And it's pretty bad for you. And you take it, and it increases your dopamine really quickly, really high. Now, this leads your brain to learning the pattern that cocaine equals happy. This is something that we don't want, and this is an incredibly short circuit that will lead you to just be motivated to pursue that drug. Okay. Now, this will also lead you to not want to pursue other things, as it will steadily narrow the amount of things that you want to do. Okay. Now, also what I'd like to say is that if you are addicted to something, first of all, seek help. But if you're addicted to something and you want to get off of that addiction, the best way, the quickest way, the easiest way is to go so-called cold turkey, which means not have contact with substance or with activity at all. And after 30 days, your neurological pathways should be fully recovered. Okay. Now, I'll be eventually finishing, and I hope I had your attention for a bigger part of my presentation. But before I finish, I would like you to kind of understand, I would like you to come away from this presentation with one key idea. Think of dopamine as a currency. It's something huge. Wars have been waged over different currencies. This currency is one that regulates our drive, our motivation, striving for external things. It's really important to care about.